G'day guys, welcome along to the On Throttle channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different from the normal motovlog style video. Today we're going to talk about a bike that I'm getting a bit excited for coming in 2023, and that is the new 1050 V-Strom DE. So last week Suzuki announced that we are getting new Suzuki V-Stroms for 2023. Mostly they have only announced three models for the New Zealand lineup, but we are sort of suspicious that there may be a new middleweight on the way as well. But those new models are, of course, the new 1050RR, the road ready model of the new 1050 lineup, 1050DE, DE for Desert Edition or Desert Express, harking back to the old Dakar days, and of course there is also a new baby V-Strom, the V-Strom 250SX. So today we're going to focus on the V-Strom DE and the 250SX because these are going to be two models that are sort of going to fit into different parts of the Suzuki lineup, and they're also going to fit quite well, I think. These new bikes are expected to arrive here in Q1 of 2023. We don't have exact dates and we don't have pricing yet, but we expect these to be announced in the near future. So starting off with the 1050DE, Suzuki has finally started to take off-road seriously. They've said for years that the V-Strom is not an off-road bike, but they have finally relented and they've given us a bike with a 21-inch front wheel and more ground clearance, crash protection from factory, and finally switchable ABS. Thank you, Suzuki. So this bike we are expecting to be priced higher than the current models. We're expecting it somewhere in the region of $20,000 to $25,000. If it goes any higher, it's going to start running into issues where it's going to be competing directly with the CRF 1100 Africa Twin, which by all respects is a far more adventure-ready bike. Suzuki's always occupied the more budget-friendly part of the market, but for that you do get the tried and true V-Twin, still a 1037cc engine, but Suzuki has done, as they like to do, a few more changes just to get that little bit more refinement from the aging V-Twin. It is quite a surprise. This motor is now over 20 years old, and it looks like it's going to stick around for a few years longer yet, which I think is pretty damn cool. So, what has Suzuki done to make the DE the DE? Well, firstly, they got rid of the 19-inch front wheel. We now have a tubed, according to the official specs, 21-inch front wheel. Being a tubed tyre means there will be more tyre options for those of us wanting more aggressive front end tyres in terms of dirt tyres, but interestingly they've kept the 17-inch tubeless one at the back, which kinda means that while you have a tube tyre you can get a nice aggressive knobbly for the front, at the rear you're still limited in terms of sizes, and now on adventures you're going to need to take a tubeless repair kit and the equipment to change a tubed wheel as well, which brings some pros and cons obviously. So Suzuki's also upgraded the suspension. It's now got an extra inch of travel, which has of course made the bike slightly higher, seat height here, and that's going to make it a bit more challenging for those of us a bit short in the leg. But Suzuki has given us some really good upgrades as well. They've redone the styling. Crash protection for the DE now comes as standard, so if you want to take your bike off-road and you're scared of dropping it, it should be able to handle it pretty well with a factory crash bars and skid plate. Being a V-Strom and a 1050, that means the chassis is mostly left alone, so previous aftermarket accessories should still hopefully bolt on if you want to go a bit further in your adventures. Suzuki's also given us a TFT screen for the first time on the V-Strom. This is something I was hoping for with the 2020 model, but they've finally given it to us for 2023, and that's just going to make things a little bit easier to control in terms of the electronics. You've got the full Suzuki electronics kit with a 6-axis IMU based set of traction control and ABS, and finally that ABS is switchable. So that's going to mean you can lock up the rear wheel on adventures without getting yourself into trouble by overshooting your braking zones. Whew, it's a goodie. So we don't know the price of this bike yet, but it is expected here in Q1 of 2023. Another bike we're looking forward to is the new baby V-Strom, the V-Strom 250SX. This bike was launched in India earlier this year, and by all accounts it's quite a neat little package. It shares the same engine as the Gixxer 250, being a sub 250cc single cylinder engine. Puts out a decent amount of power for what it is, but it's not going after any records. It's not chasing the off-road market like Honda has with its CRF 300s, but it's not trying to, it's not an aesthetic package like the old V-Strom 250 was. Now, if you remember, that bike was based on the Suzuki Inazuma. It had a parallel twin engine, and it was a bit lackluster, and it had 17-inch wheels, which was, for a little adventure bike with a big bash plate from factory, was a bit weird. The new bike also looks a lot better than the old Suzuki V-Strom 250. Styling is now following exactly from the 1050 models. You have the LED headlight, the beak, all the angles. It actually looks like it belongs as part of a family. This bike is probably going to be alright for playing around off-road, introducing riders to gravel riding possibly, or it's going to be a good option for those shorter in the leg that are wanting to get into adventure riding. It does have cast alloy wheels, as is the traditional V-Strom lineup, so that means 19-inch at the front, 17 at the rear, tubeless tyres. You're going to have decent enough options to get out on a gravel adventure, but you're not going to be doing hard enduro on this bike. It is coming at a time where Suzuki New Zealand's lineup has suffered because of the ABS laws, so seeing a baby V-Strom come in, hopefully the pricing is under $10,000 and it gives Suzuki a new adventure option since the demise of the DRZ250, DRZ400E, DR650 and so on because of the ABS laws. Again, this bike is due in Q1 of 2023. We hope we get an invite to go to the official launch if they do one. We will bring all the latest news to you as it comes to hand. There's also, of course, the elephant in the room. You may recall spy shots emerging a couple of weeks ago of a new 700cc parallel twin middleweight V-Strom. So I know a lot of people have gotten up about the name. V-Strom means V-twin engine, but hey, we've seen it in the past before with the original baby V-Strom. It had a parallel twin. The new one has a single cylinder. The V doesn't necessarily stand for V-twin engine now. Possibly it stands for versatile, who knows. But the new middleweight V-Strom appears to be taking over from the DL650, which you may recall came into being around 2017. It's getting a bit old, that DL650 in its current guise. Now, I expected it to be updated alongside the 1050s in 2020, 2021, but they've held out, and that makes me think that this DL700 with the parallel twin engine actually might be the real deal. Now, Suzuki hasn't released anything official on this, but I'm willing to bet that come the EICMA Motor Show in Milan at the beginning of November, we are going to see this bike for the first time in the flesh. So that's about it for the V-Stroms today. Thanks for watching. If you've been interested, don't forget to like and subscribe, help grow the channel, and I will see you in the next video.